tank wars have truly begun in the NBA, with many more teams aggressively participating in battles. So what does that mean for the Raptors as they look to push for one of those lower picks come the end of the season? Let's get into it. We've been over it already on this channel, but the Raptors have the easiest remaining schedule in the NBA by far, which is a good thing if you're trying to push for the playoffs, but a bad thing when you are not. And it is very clear the Raptors are not. Yes, they're not too far out of the play-in tournament picture, but the way they've been treating games recently, they are not trying to get there. They've been resting players in some games. They've been pulling their starters out for the fourth quarter of some games. They are very clearly trying to optimize their lottery odds, and they're very clearly trying to stay in the bottom 5 in terms of records in the NBA. But that position in the bottom 5 has been put under threat by some of these easy games that they've had. They've had a game against the Wizards, 2 games against the Wizards, which they actually lost one. They had a game against the Jazz. They also had 2 games against the Magic, which they won, where the Magic aren't tanking. Somehow the Raptors still beat them despite their best efforts to try and lose those games. But in any sense, the Raptors are very clearly at this moment trying to lose these games. The problem is there are a lot of bad teams that are aggressively entering this tank battle, including the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets, who are right around the Raptors in the NBA standings. So we have to look at the big picture of this situation. Like, what should we be expecting for the Raptors? How should they be finishing? We're covering that today on Amateur Sports. This is the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content. So drop a like if you enjoyed along the way and subscribe for more content like it. And for extra support, check out the merch that we have for the channel as well with the link that is in the description. But the Raptors, how they've been handling these games, my opinion on this has changed dramatically over the last couple weeks, but especially from the start of the season. Start of the season, it was kind of just like, okay, go win games, see what happens. I think that's the healthiest way to approach the season. But then it became apparent, well, wow, this team's not very good. I don't really want to see this team in the playoffs when there is such a loaded draft class for us to get a probably potentially pretty good pick in. So it became to me like, okay, we win, cool. It's my favorite team winning a basketball game. If they lose, also cool. It kind of helps our lottery odds. Then it shifted a little bit more. It became, okay, I'm watching the games. I'm watching every game. I'm live streaming for these games. It's fun watching them play well and win. But if they lose, I go, okay, you know what? It's probably better that they lost. Once the dust has settled on the game and I don't have to watch it anymore, I'm like, okay, it's good they lost. I think it'd be better if they would have lost that game. It's not like that anymore. It's not like that anymore in any way whatsoever. I am firmly, like before the game even starts, lose this game. And it's a terrible mindset to have as a fan watching your team, but that is just the reality of the situation here. This is where we are at. You have to lose as many games as possible. And like I said last week on the channel, the fact that you have an easy schedule means when you lose a game, it makes sure somebody else in and around you in the standings wins their game. And probably the most important game of the season so far, no joke, is coming up against the Philadelphia 76ers on Wednesday. The Raptors are hosting the 76ers in a game they just cannot win. They cannot do it. They cannot win that game. Now, they might, but they shouldn't. They should absolutely, positively not win that game. Would they win against the Wizards? And look, we want them to lose games and everything, but they split against the Wizards, which in reality, the Wizards are horrendous. We are fortunate to get a split, I think, out of those games and take a loss. And we could have easily won both those games, put ourselves on a little bit of a win streak. But the Wizards are aggressively tanking. The Charlotte Hornets are aggressively tanking. The Utah Jazz aggressively tanking. 76ers now aggressively tanking. Joel Embiid's out for the season. They're starting to pull their starters out of games for longer periods of time, the 76ers. The Nets have been tanking for a while. They have such a good coach that they're actually still winning some games. But the recent run of games has put the Raptors in a little bit of a perilous situation to stay in the bottom 5 for record. The Raptors now have 22 wins on the season. That is the exact same amount as the 2 teams above them. The Brooklyn Nets also have 22 wins. The Philadelphia 76ers also have 22 wins. Now, the good news is the Raptors have 43 losses. The Sixers have 42 losses. The Brooklyn Nets have 42 losses. And there's still a long way to go in the season. But it is such a massive swing for games like the one against the Philadelphia 76ers that the Raptors are not doing enough. The Raptors need to be doing more. Darko was talking about in a post-game press conference where, like against the Jazz, he's leaving in his starters for the fourth quarter. He's leaving in guys to end the game. Some games he's pulling them out for the last 5 minutes. Some games he's leaving them in for the last 5 minutes. We got to get our priorities straight. Like we can't be messing around. I'm serious. Like I hate it, but this is the NBA, man. There is a really good draft class here. This is how you build your team. This is how you get a really good draft pick. And look, if you're not going to do it, like you are too high and mighty to tank, you think you're above other teams, like there are so many other teams who will relish the opportunity to fall behind you in the standings, and it's about to be the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets that take it upon themselves to lower their record and get into those positions if the Toronto Raptors are not careful in this situation. We've been over the whole concept of tanking and why the Raptors need to do it, so I don't want to rehash that. I don't want to give you a whole other conversation about why tanking is the right course of action for this team. We are beyond that. We know this team needs to tank. They need to do it better because they've got a lot more competition this year for the tank than they did last year, and a lot more competition for the tank than they did in the Tampa season. Tanking has become extremely relevant in the league, especially with so many bad teams in the Eastern Conference. More games should be played where the main guys like Quickly, Barrett, and Barnes just don't feature in any way whatsoever. We need to have more games like that. We need to have more games in which where they feature, they're not playing beyond the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. And you know what? Sometimes they're still going to win some of these games because they're so easy, and so be it. You got guys like A.J. Lawson dropping 32. Maybe you'll win a game from time to time. I can accept that. But like the Jazz game really felt like the Raptors should have pulled their guys out a little bit earlier and maximized the possibility of losing that game, because it looked like for a moment the Jazz were actually going to come back and win that game. But the Raptors had their top guys in. Again, Darko Rajkovic saying sometimes I'll leave him in, sometimes I'll take him out of the game. I'm not sure what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. It is a very complicated situation. I understand how crazy this sounds. Like, if you don't understand like how the draft process works in North American sports, you think like, why do you want your team to lose so bad? But this is the NBA that Adam Silver has created. This is the way it is. And the reality is the odds you are gaining for your potential draft pick for the draft lottery outweigh all the pros associated with winning games, getting that winning experience. Like, first of all, we've had a long time this season to try and win some games. If they wanted that experience, like, they had the chance to do that. And the experience right now, coming against these lesser teams, don't think that's very valuable. The chemistry of playing with guys, yeah, is chemistry a little important? Yeah, it is. But what's more important? Getting a really good player in the draft to supplement your team to win more games next season. We need to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is next season and the future and what that draft pick could bring to the team. The best thing the Raptors do on a year-to-year basis is find talent, scout talent, draft them, and develop them. We've got a prime opportunity to get a really good player to do just that, and the Raptors cannot be fumbling it by overplaying their top guys, not resting their top guys in enough games where they're just not playing at all. More needs to be done by this Raptors team. They cannot win that game against the Philadelphia 76ers. They need to do everything they can. I am dead serious, stone cold serious. They need to lose that game.